Section 14 of John G. Paton, Missionary to the New Hebrides, an Autobiography, First Part by John Paton. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 9, Deepening Shadows, Part 3. The following incident illustrates the depths of native superstition. One morning, 2 inland chiefs came running to the mission house, breathless and covered with perspiration. One of them held up a handful of half-rotten tracts, crying, "Missy, is this a part of God's Word, the sacred book of Jehovah, or is it the work, the words, the book of man?" I examined them and replied, "These are the work, the words, and the book of man, not of Jehovah." He questioned me again, "Missy, are you certain that it is not the word of Jehovah?" I replied, "It is only man's work and man's book." He continued then, "Missy, some years ago Kaipai, a sacred chief, and certain Tannese went on a visit to a Neotium, and Missy Getty gave him these books. On return, when he showed them to the Tannese, the people were all so afraid of them, for they thought they were the sacred books of Jehovah, that they met for consultation and agreed solemnly to bury them. Yesterday, some person in digging had disinterred them, and at once our inland people said that our dead chief had buried a part of Jehovah's word, which made him angry, and that he had therefore caused the chief's death and the plague of measles, etc. Therefore they were now assembled to kill the dead chief's son and daughter in revenge. But before that should be done, I persuaded them to send these books to inquire of you if this be part of Jehovah's book, and if the burying of it caused all these diseases and deaths. I assured him that these books never caused either sickness or death to any human being, and that none of us can cause sickness or death by sorcery. That burying these tracts did not make Jehovah angry, nor cause evil to any creature. You yourselves know, I said, the very ships that brought the measles and caused the deaths, and you killed some of the young men who were landed sick with the disease." The inland chief declared, "Missy, I am quite satisfied. No person shall be put to death over these books now." They went off, but immediately returned, saying, "Missy, have you any books like these to show to us, and will you show us the sacred book of Jehovah beside them?" I showed them a Bible, and then a handful of tracts with pictures like those they had brought, and I offered them the Bible and specimens of these tracts, that they might show both to the people assembled. The tracts they received, but the Bible they refused to touch. They satisfied the inland people and prevented bloodshed. But oh, what a depth of superstition to be raised out of, and how easily life might be sacrificed at every turn. On another occasion I had the joy of saving the lives of sandalwood traders, to whom neither I nor the mission owed anything except for Christ's sake. The Bluebell cast anchor in the harbor on a beautiful morning, and the captain and mate immediately came on shore. They had letters for me, but on landing they were instantly surrounded by the chiefs and people, who formed a ring about them on the beach and called for me to come. The 2 white men stood in the midst, with many weapons pointed at them and death if they dared to move. They shouted to me, "This is one of the vessels which brought the measles. You and they made the sickness and destroyed our people. Now if you do not leave with this vessel, we will kill you all." Of course, their intention was to frighten me on board just as I was, and leave my premises for plunder. I protested, "I will not leave you. I cannot leave you in this way, and if you murder these men or me, Jehovah will punish you. I am here for your good, and you know how kind I have been to you all in giving you medicine, knives, axes, blankets, and clothing. You also know well that I have never done ill to one human being, but have constantly sought your good. I will not and cannot leave you thus." In great wrath they cried, "Then will we kill you and this captain and mate." I kept reasoning with them against such conduct, standing firmly before them and saying, "If you do kill me, Jehovah will punish you. The other men in that vessel will punish you before they sail, and a man of war will come and burn your villages and canoes and fruit trees." I urged the 2 men to try and get into their boat as quickly as possible, in silence, while I kept arguing with the natives. The letters which they had for me the savages forbade me to take into my hands, lest thereby some other foreign disease should come to their island. Miyaki exclaimed in great wrath that my medicine had killed them all, but I replied, "My medicine with God's blessing saved many lives. You know well that all who followed my rules recovered from the measles, except only 1 man, and are living still. Now you seek to kill me for saving your lives and the lives of your people." I appealed to Yorian, another chief, if the medicine had not saved his life when he appeared to be dying, which he admitted to be the truth. The men had now slipped into their boat and were preparing to leave. Miyaki shouted, "Let them go, don't kill them today." Then he called to the captain, "Come on shore and trade with us tomorrow." Next day they foolishly came on shore and began to trade. Natives surrounded the boat with clubs and tomahawks, but Miyaki's heart failed him when about to strike, and he called out, "Missy said that, if we kill them, a man of war will come and take revenge on us." In the altercation that followed, the men thrust the boat into deep water and forced it out of the grasp of the savages, but they caught the captain's large Newfoundland dog and kept it prisoner. As a compensation for this disappointment, Miyake urged that my life and Abraham's be at once taken, but again no war's firm opposition and God's goodness rescued us from the jaws of the lion. The Bluebell left next morning, and the dog remained behind, and no one from the vessel would venture ashore. Revenge for the murder of the 4 men killed to accompany Miyake's child threatened to originate another war. But the chiefs for 8 miles around met, and, after much speechifying, agreed that as they were all weak for war, owing to the measles and the want of food through the hurricanes, they should delay it till they all grew stronger. No war was, however, greatly excited, and informed me that Miyake had urged the people of an inland district to shoot No War and Abraham and me, and he pled with us again to take him and flee to Aniatium. Impossible except by canoe, and perhaps impossible even so. That night and the following night they tried to break into my house. On one occasion my valuable dog was let out and cleared them away. Next night I shouted at them from inside when they thought me asleep, and they decamped again. Indeed, our continuous danger caused me now oftentimes to sleep with my clothes on, that I might start at a moment's warning. My faithful dog would give a sharp bark and wake me. At other times she would leap up and pull at the clothes till I awoke, and then she turned her head quietly and indicated by a wondrous instinct where the danger lay. God made them fear this precious creature, and often used her in saving our lives. Soon after this, 6 inland chiefs came to see me. We had a long talk on the evils of war and the blessings of the worship of Jehovah. I gave each a knife and a fork and a tin plate, and they promised to oppose the war which Miyake was forcing on. A man came also with a severe gash in his hand which a fish had given him. I dressed it, and he went away very grateful and spread everywhere the news of healing, a kind of gospel which he and they could most readily appreciate. Another incident made them well disposed for a season, namely the use of a fishing net. Seeing that the natives had so little food, there being, in fact, a famine after the hurricane, I engaged an inland tribe to make a net 40 feet long and very broad. Strange to say, the inland people who live far from the sea make the best fishing materials, which again they sell to the harbor people for the axes, knives, blankets, and other articles obtained from calling vessels. They also make the killing stones and trade with them amongst the shore people all round the island. The kawas, or killing stone, is made of blue whinstone, 18 to 24 inches long, an inch and a half across, perfectly straight and hewn as round and neat as any English tradesman could have done it, exactly like a large scythe stone, such as they use on the harvest fields in Scotland. The kawas seems to be peculiar to Tanna, at least, I have not seen it on any other island. The natives with pieces of very hard, heavy wood of the same size and shape are taught to throw it from infancy at a given mark. In warfare it is thrown first, where it strikes, it stuns or kills, and then they spring forward with their large double-handed heavy club. Every man and boy carries his killing stone and other weapons, even when moving about peaceably in his own village, war being, in fact, the only regular occupation for men. Well, these same inland people, the sort of artisans of the island, being mostly the women and the girls, manufactured for me this huge fishing net. The cord was twisted from the fiber made out of the bark of their own trees and prepared with immense toil and care, and not without touches of skill and taste, when woven and knotted and intertwined. This net I secured and lent about 3 days each to every village all around the harbor and near it. One night I saw them carrying home a large hog, which they had got from an inland chief for a portion of the fish which they had taken. I thought it right to cause them to return the net to the mission house every Saturday evening, that they might not be tempted to use it on Sabbath. It was a great help to them, and the harbor yielded them much wholesome food in lieu of what the hurricane had destroyed. When, about this time, the John Knox came to anchor in the bay, a native was caught in the act of stealing from her. Angry at being discovered, he and his friends came to shoot me, pretending that it was because the John Knox knew they were in want of food and had not brought them a load of taro from Aniatium. Taro is a plant of the genus Arum, the Aesculentum, or Colocasia aesculenta, well known all through Polynesia. The natives spread it in a very simple way. Cutting off the leaves with a very little of the old bulb still attached, they fix these in the ground and have the new taro about a year after that. It is of several kinds and of a great variety of colors, white, yellow, blue, etc. It grows best in ground irrigated by streams of pure water, or in shallow, swampy ground over which the water runs. The dry ground taro is small and inferior compared to the water-grown roots. Nutritious and pleasant, not unlike the texture of cheese when laid in slices on the table, in size and appearance like a Swedish turnip. It can be either boiled or baked. Hurricanes may destroy all other native food, but the taro lies uninjured below the water. hence on islands where it will grow, it forms one of the most permanent and valuable of all their crops. Our people also demanded that the John Knox should bring them kava and tobacco. Kava is the plant Piper mysticum, from which they make a highly intoxicating drink. The girls and boys first chew it and spit the juice into a basin. There it is mixed with water and then strained through a fibrous cloth-like texture, which they get from the top of the coconut trees, where it surrounds the young nuts and drops off with them when they are ripe. This they freely drink. It does not make them violent, but stupefies them and induces sleep like opium. A portion is always poured out to their gods, and the dregs in every mouth after drinking are always spit out with the exclamation, "That's for you, Kume-san." It is sometimes offered and partaken of with very great ceremony, but its general use is as a soporific by the men, regularly after the evening meal. Women and children are not allowed to drink it. Many men have been attacked and murdered at night when lying enfeebled and enfolded by kava. That, indeed, is their common mode of taking revenge and of declaring war. These angry men who came to me about the John Knox tried to smash in my window and kill my faithful dog, but I reasoned firmly and kindly with them, and they at last withdrew. At that time, though my life was daily attempted, a dear lad named Cartassian was coming 6 miles regularly to the worship and to receive frequent instruction. One day, when engaged in teaching him, I caught a man stealing the blind from my window. On trying to prevent him, he aimed his great club at me, but I seized the heavy end of it with both my hands as it swung past my head, and held on with all my might. What a prayer went up for me to God at that dread moment! The man, astonished and abashed at my kind words and appeal, slunk away and left me in peace. I had planted a few yams of the genus Dioscorea, a most valuable article of food, nearly as precious as potatoes were to the poor in Ireland, and used very much in the same way. Years after, when I went to Melbourne, I took one from Aniwa, by no means the largest, weighing 72 pounds, and another 42. The things, however, that I planted on Tanna the natives stole and carried away, making themselves extremely troublesome. But God never took away from me the consciousness that it was still right for me to be kind and forgiving, and to hope that I might lead them to love and to imitate Jesus. For a season thereafter, the friendly feeling grew on every side. The natives prepared for payment an excellent foundation for a new church, by leveling down the hill near to my mission house. Any number of men offered to work for calico, knives, axes, etc. All the fences were renewed, and the mission premises began to look nice once more, at least in my eyes. My work became encouraging, and I had many opportunities of talking with them about the worship and Jehovah. This stage of matters displeased Miyake and his men, and one day, having been engaged thus, I rushed back only in time to extinguish a fire which they had kindled under the veranda and close to the door of my house. Our watch had to be unrelaxing. A cousin of Miyake's, for instance, sold me a fish as good for food which he knew to be poisonous, but no war saw in time and warned me of its deadly character. Miyake then threatened to shoot any of the inland people who came to work or to receive instruction. Yet larger numbers came than before, but they came fully armed. Nouka, the high chief of the harbor, Miyake's uncle, came and sat beside us often and said, "Miyake breaks my heart. He deceives Missy. He hates the worship of Jehovah." For some time Nouka and his wife and daughter, a handsome girl, his only child, and Miyake's principal wife and her 2 sons, and 9 chiefs attended worship regularly at the mission house, on Sabbaths and on the afternoon of every Wednesday. In all, about 60 persons somewhat regularly waited on our ministrations at this time, and amidst all perils I was encouraged, and my heart was full of hope. Yet one evening, when feeling more consoled and hopeful than ever before, a musket was discharged at my very door, and I was constrained to realize that we were in the midst of death. Father, our times are in thy hand. As my work became more encouraging, I urgently applied to the missionaries on Aniatium for more teachers, but none could be found willing to return to Tanna. The plague of measles had almost demoralized them. Even on Aniatium, where they had medicine and would follow the missionaries' advice, no fewer than 1,100 had been cut off, and the mortality was very much greater on such islands as Tanna, Aniwa, etc., where they were still heathen and either had not or would not follow medical counsels. Of my teachers and their wives, 10 were swept away in the epidemic, and the few that were left were so disheartened that they escaped to their own land at the first opportunity, as before recorded, excepting only dear old faithful Abraham. But I need not wonder. Small perils deter God's people at home from many a call of duty. In my mission school, I offered as a prize a red shirt for the first chief who knew the whole alphabet without a mistake. It was won by an Inakaki chief who was once a terror to the whole community. Afterwards, when trying to teach the ABC to others, he proceeded in something like this graphic style. A is a man's legs with the body cut off. B is like 2 eyes. C is a 3/4 moon. D is like one eye. E is a man with one club under his feet and another over his head. F is a man with a large club and a smaller one, etc., etc. L was like a man's foot. Q was the talk of the dove, etc. Then he would say, "Remember these things, you will soon get hold of the letters and be able to read. I have taught my little child who can scarcely walk the names of them all. They are not hard to hold, but soft and easy. You will soon learn to read the book if you try it with all your heart." But Miyaki was still our evil genius, and every incident seemed to be used by him for one settled purpose of hate. A Kase-domini chief, for instance, and 7 men took away a young girl in a canoe to Aniwa, to be sold to friends there for tobacco leaf, which the Aniwans cultivated extensively. They also prepared to take revenge there for a child's death, killed in their belief by the sorcery of an Aniwan. When within sight of the shore, the canoes were upset, and all were said to have been devoured by sharks, excepting only 1 canoe out of 6. This one returned to Tana and reported that there were 2 white traders living on Aniwa, that they had plenty of ammunition and tobacco, but that they would not come to Tana as long as the missionary lived there. Under this fresh incitement, a party of Miyaki's men came to my house, praising the Aromangans for the murder of their missionaries and threatening me. Even the friendly No-War said, "Miyaki will make a great wind and sink any man of war that comes here. We will take the man of war and kill all that are on board. If you and Abraham do not leave us, we will kill you both, for we must have the traders and the powder." Just as they were assuming a threatening attitude, other natives came running with the cry, "Missy, the John Knox is coming into the harbor, and 2 great ships of fire, men of war behind her, coming very fast." I retorted upon No-War and the hostile company, "Now is your time. Make all possible haste. Let Miyaki raise his great wind now. Get all your men ready. I will tell them that you mean to fight, and you will find them always ready." Miyaki's men fled away in unconcealed terror, but No-War came to me and said, "Missy, I know that my talk is all lies, but if I speak the truth, they will kill me." I answered, "Trust in Jehovah, the same God who sent these vessels now to protect us from being murdered." But No-War always wavered. And now from all parts of the island those who were most friendly flocked to us. They were clamorous to have Miyaki and some others of our enemies punished by the man of war in presence of the natives, and then they would be strong to speak in our defense and to lead the Tannese to worship Jehovah. Commodore Seymour, Captain Hume, and Dr. Getty came on shore. After inquiring into everything, the Commodore urged me to leave at once, and very kindly offered to remove me to Aniatiam or Auckland, or any place of safety that I preferred. Again, however, I hesitated to leave my dear benighted Tannese, knowing that both stations would be instantly broken up, that all the influence gained would be thrown away, that the church would lose all that had been expended, and above all, that those friendly to us would be left to persecution and destruction. For a long time I had seldom taken off my clothes at night, needing to be constantly on the alert to start at a moment's notice. Yet, while hope burned within my soul, I could not withdraw, so I resolved to risk all with my dear Lord Jesus and remained at my post. At my request, however, they met and talked with all the leaders who could be assembled at the mission house. The natives declared frankly that they liked me but did not like the worship. The Commodore reminded them that they had invited me to land among them, and had pledged their word more than once to protect me. He argued with them that as they had no fault to find with me but only with the worship, which could do them only good, they must bind themselves to protect my life. Miyaki and others promised and gave him their hands to do so. Lathela, an Aniatiamese chief who was with Dr. Getty, interpreted for him and them, Dr. Getty explaining fully to Lathela in Aniatiamese what the Commodore said in English, and Lathela explaining to all the Tannese in their own tongue. At last old Nouka spoke out for all and said, "Captain Paton and all the traders tell us that the worship causes all our sickness and death. They will not trade with us, nor sell us tobacco, pipes, powder, balls, caps, and muskets till we kill our Missy like the Aromangans. But after that they will send a trader to live among us and give us plenty of all these things. We love Missy, but when the traders tell us that the worship makes us sick, and when they bribe us with tobacco and powder to kill him or drive him away, some believe them, and our hearts do bad conduct to Missy. Let Missy remain here, and we will try to do good conduct to Missy. But you must tell Queen Toria of her people's bad treatment of us, and that she must prevent her traders from killing us with their measles, and from telling us lies to make us do bad conduct to Missy. If they come to us and talk as before, our hearts are very dark and may again lead us to bad conduct to Missy." After this little parley, the Commodore invited us all on board, along with the chiefs. They saw about 300 brave Marines ranked up on deck and heard a great cannon discharged. For all such efforts to impress them and open their eyes I felt profoundly grateful, but too clearly I knew and saw that only the grace of God could lastingly change them. They were soon back to their old arguments, and were heard saying to one another, If no punishment is inflicted on the Aromangans for murdering the Missi there, we fear the bad conduct of the Tannese will continue. No punishment was inflicted at Aromanga, and the Tannese were soon as bold and wicked as ever. For instance, while the man-of-war lay in the harbor, No War kept himself closely concealed. But no sooner had she sailed than the cowardly fellow came out, laughing at the others and protesting that he was under no promise and was free to act as he pleased. Yet in the hour of danger he generally proved to be our friend, such was his vacillating character. Nor was Miyake very seriously impressed. Mr. Mathieson shortly thereafter sent his boat round to me, being again short of European food. On his crew leaving her to deliver their message to me, some of Miyake's men at once jumped into the boat and started off round the island in search of kava. I went to Miyake to ask that the boat might be brought back soon, but on seeing me he ran for his club and aimed to strike me. I managed to seize it and to hold on, pleading with God and talking with Miyake, till by the interference of some friendly natives his wrath was assuaged a little. Returning home, I sent food overland to keep them going till the boat returned, which she did in about 8 days. Thus light and shadow pursued each other, the light brightening for a moment, but upon the whole the shadows deepening. End of section 14. Read by Alethea Karras.